So who here remembers Left 4 Dead? If not, then frankly I'm quite surprised, as it was quite a major hit on both Xbox and PC. But to give you a brief rundown, Left 4 Dead was a basic 4-player PvE co-op experience where you take the role of 4 survivors and travel from point A to point B with some objectives in the middle and basically fight off a zombie horde. The game had an overall simple concept which could be replayed over and over. Of course, with the lack of future content, excluding a couple of short campaigns for Left 4 Dead, it would have eventually lost interest. Thanks to a massive modding community, new maps, weapons and reskins helped keep the game feeling fresh, especially when it came to custom maps, as there were some modders that tend to get very creative with this kind of thing, or very cringy depending on what area of the community you look at. Now if you don't believe me, seriously look at this. What the hell is this? Like why? Why was this needed for Left 4 Dead? It's just weird, I don't like it. Anyway, at first the style of gameplay Left 4 Dead had to offer was pretty unique, but over time companies would take inspiration from it and follow in their footsteps. And thanks to this we got some games like Payday, Warhammer Vermintide and Deep Rock Galactic. But all these games tend to try and take a spin on the style of gameplay and add gimmicks and mechanics to make it stand out on its own. And that's brilliant. I think it's a nice change to see developers get creative with a known genre. But over the years no one's really tried to copy the Left 4 Dead formula exactly, which is surprising, but this could be due to Left 4 Dead having such a massive community as it was, and it's still going pretty well today. But sadly, over time modding has started to slow down, with custom campaigns coming out less and less, and some being less quality than others. And now it's roughly about 8 years since Left 4 Dead 2 launched, and the future of Left 4 Dead 3 is looking pretty bleak, as Valve haven't confirmed a third game yet, and I don't think they're going to anytime soon. At this point I've ended up looking towards Steam's recommendation feature yet again for another PvE game which fills my Left 4 Dead needs. And to my surprise I actually found a game that took the core gameplay elements of Left 4 Dead, changed the theming a bit and added a couple of new little tweaks here and there, while keeping the original idea at heart. And it's quickly ended up being one of my favourite games to come out so far this year. So without any further ado, Earthfall is your standard 4-player co-op Left 4 Dead clone. It doesn't try too hard to make itself unique, but when compared to Left 4 Dead it does offer some new features. So it's keeping the core of what made Left 4 Dead great while sprinkling a bit of pizzazz over the top of it to make it a little bit different. The basic gist of Earthfall is that you play as 4 survivors who are trying to fight their way through an oncoming horde of aliens from outer space. Each character plays the same instead of having benefits assigned to each character, although when compared to Left 4 Dead these characters appear pretty bland. They have some good lines, but then some are executed really weirdly.
That ladder is seriously badass.
There it is.
Thank you for being quiet then. Yeah, thankfully it's not all like that though. It's also worth mentioning that some of the models for the characters look a bit weird, especially when you use the early access skins on them. I mean, look at those necks. Are you sure we're not playing the aliens in disguise? Because I'm pretty sure no one in this world has a neck like that. While the characters may appear bland from gameplay, you can actually unlock lore about them. In fact, you can learn lore about pretty much everything in this game. From weapons to random junk, Earthfall provides descriptions and stories about what you encounter through the game. Some lore is unlocked by general use, so using weapons or playing as certain characters, while others are located in the game from finding certain objects. Some lore is pretty obvious, like the meter in the first campaign's final chapter, while others seem a little bit trickier to find. And while I doubt I'll ever actually read this stuff, hey, it gives me collectibles to find and go hunting, so it gives me more of a reason to go back and replay through these. And speaking of weapon lore, let me give you a quick roundup of the weapons. It's a similar style to Left 4 Dead, with the damage not really having much of a difference, but you have more to choose from this time. You have an SMG that actually looks pretty slick. I think it's an MP5. You've got a generic AK-47, a more modern AK-67. You've got a combat rifle similar to how the style works in Left 4 Dead, a silent sniper rifle, a pump shotgun and an auto shotgun, 2 types of secondaries, one being a deagle, which yes, you can akimbo this time, roughly 3 melee weapons, and one thankfully being an almighty Crovel. There's also a bunch of different grenades in this game, which feature some elements like fire, electricity, there's a bait bomb, and then there's 3 special types of weapons. A minigun, a flamethrower, and finally a weird high-tech weapon that evaporates aliens in a matter of seconds. And then finally you have some stuff which is deployable, like mountable turrets, auto turrets and barricades. Thankfully though, with the deployables they're not fixed to specific spots. I mean, if you're certain areas like doorways, it will automatically fit it in place just to make it easier for yourself, but for stuff like the barricades you can literally place these things anywhere, and I basically wasted a bunch of them earlier when playing with my friend. So the Facebook
what is this? Ben, you gotta, this has got to be a funny clip you put in, because this is stupid as shit. What the fuck? Ben, it is working. That's what I hate. Like, it's not entirely awful. Like, it's actually doing something.
One other good thing as well, which I didn't realise at first because I didn't know how to do it, was you can upgrade these barricades to have either fire or static elements. It doesn't tell you how to do it, so I'll give you a quick idea now. If you have the arc grenades on the side of the barricade on the left, I believe, you can attach them there. However, if you want the fire effect, you need to get a propane tank and look at the bottom right hand side of the barricade. One of the benefits though with this is you can actually use the barricade later on if it's with the propane tank and blow it up. Although that does break up the barricade, but if you've got like a massive alien coming through like a beast, you might as well just use it and just get them on fire while you're there. So overall, when looking back at it, there is a decent amount of weapons to choose from in this type of game. I won't deny I'd like to see a couple more, preferably an M1 and a crossbow would be a nice addition, but I think for now these weapons do need a bit of tweaking first, as in certain areas there's a bit of a problem. For example, the sniper rifle in this game for some reason destroys my frame rate whenever I pick it up, and it just looks a bit weird. And secondly, the weapon sounds are very inconsistent. Like, some sound really powerful and decent while others sound like complete crap, and then there's issues with sound mixing. I'm not sure why they've gone with these kind of sounds, because it really does ruin the appeal for certain weapons, especially the starter pistols. While I love the quick fire rate, they sound like bloody pea shooters. Like I mentioned a second ago though, some weapons do have sound mixing errors, mainly in areas like the bullet casings hitting the floor. It seems to be way too loud, especially when on the mounted machine gun. And then there's the Crevel, which while I love the Crevel, it doesn't have any sounds at all. But that's only sound though, the guns don't feel too bad, they're actually more satisfying now compared to early access when they had no recoil whatsoever. And again, it's not all bad, because there is the benefit of using a stim pack. If you recall back to Left 4 Dead 2, they introduced the adrenaline shot. It increases your movement speed, gives you a small chunk of health, and then makes you interact much quicker. The stim pack in Earthfall does exactly the same, but it has some weird effect which increases the fire rate of every single weapon in the game. And this can end up being some pretty interesting results. Man, I could do that for hours. So I mentioned a moment ago that there's an enemy called the Beast. Basically, that is your tank for this game. There's a few different enemies in this game, but they mostly feel like how they would in Left 4 Dead. You've got the Whiplash, which is like the jockey from Left 4 Dead, but you have no control in your body, basically ragdolls when it picks you up. You've then got a Thresher, which is like a hunter. You've got a Sapper, that's like a boomer, but it actually does damage effect like a spitter. And then you've got the Blackout. The Blackout is completely unique compared to Left 4 Dead. It's a new enemy type. It will shoot lasers at you and it will teleport and has a shield. It's got less health than a Beast, but it's more annoying to kill, while a Beast has a ton of health, and if he gets too close to you, you're basically fucked. And I know some people are going to say, well, that's not very original, but I kind of like how these are designed, because if it's staying core to the mechanics of Left 4 Dead, they would want enemies that feel the same. You don't want something completely out of reach. So for players who are mainly used to Left 4 Dead, it'll actually be more comfort at home, so they'll get used to the game quicker. But they do have a couple of little differences, but I won't say what. That's more for you to see when you play the game. So slightly moving on from what's similar to Left 4 Dead, what actually makes Earthfall stand out? And honestly, it's fairly tricky to say, as it's pretty close to home in this department. I mean, you could point out that you now have aim down sights if you consider that a selling point, like if you were James Black, but I'm much better than that. No, let's actually look at a key difference in this game compared to Left 4 Dead, which is how you obtain weapons. You can either locate weapons the normal way by looking around the map, but with this, it actually appears to be a small amount of weapons scattered around the map. Roughly a weapon or two will appear in the main path, with others being hidden in certain locations, recon crates, and then you finally got the main source, which is the 3D printers. Yes, that's actually a thing in this game, and Earthfall has got a story to explain why. If you're actually curious, you can actually just check the Steam page as it explains there. You can pretty much, from what I can see, print the majority of the main primary weapons from a 3D printer. The weapons you can't know are stuff like the AK-47, most of the throwables, and the melee weapons. I did actually find a printer in the game that prints the flamethrower and minigun. It's hidden off to the side of the main path in the first campaign's finale. Still though, the thought of printing a minigun just seems completely bizarre and it just blows my mind. Which brings me on to the level design itself. Much like Left 4 Dead, most of the levels are designed to be straightforward, directing you from point A to point B. But at times, Earthfall does tend to open up the map a little bit, giving the player a choice to either roam around and explore to find special weapons, lore and hidden Easter eggs, or you could just be like me and run straight through it. The layouts can appear to be a bit bland at times, but in certain levels they actually give you the choice to skip certain horde events if you look properly. It's a good mix honestly, but the one thing it does lack is director pathing like in Left 4 Dead 2. To keep these maps fresh, they need to add more layouts to progress through, or maybe have areas that just completely open up and let the player choose to go through it themselves. The level theming however is something else, and it's actually a really good thing. All the levels feel unique in the sense of an environment they offer. Instead of having a campaign that's fully focused on one set or one type of theming, you actually feel that you're traversing through the world which you're set in, like starting off in a village, making your way to a trailer park bunker, and then going to an underground service centre, off to the wildlands and then to a train yard to make your escape. While in something like Left 4 Dead, you'd mainly be in the train yard for most of it. These maps can last roughly 10 to 20 minutes at a time, which is a decent amount of playtime, especially when you want to explore every single corner of the map. I myself won't, but over time I'll end up stumbling into these areas anyway. I'll more likely walk through these if I was in a game with friends, but when playing solo with bots, they're not the greatest for when you get yourself stuck in a situation. And if you're down, they're not near you, the game is pretty much over. Also, I do have one minor nitpick with the second campaign's finale. A spoiler warning will go up now if you don't want to know. It's nothing massive, but it's still worth mentioning. So, in the finale of the second campaign, I was expecting a boss fight. It has this build up which I immediately thought, oh fuck, there's going to be a massive alien or something that's coming up to fight. But instead, it's just grab the drills, place the drills and make sure they don't jam like in Payday. It just seems like a waste of potential and it makes the ending fall flat on its face. Overall, the two campaigns that Earthfall do have to offer are pretty good. I can see myself replaying them a few times, but I do wish there were more. But thankfully the developers have confirmed that there will be a future content roadmap, but I can't say for sure if the new campaigns and weapons will be DLC. But currently what we do have is cosmetic DLCs, which I'm fine with. If they want us to buy skin packs to help them fund the major parts of the game for free, then I'm all for it. I'd rather support them anyway, as it feels like Earthfall actually has a chance to be one of those Left 4 Dead titles. Not entirely, but it definitely fits that craving I've been having for some time. Speaking of actually supporting the developers, I'd like to finally address a couple of things, firstly being some features that I would like to see added to the game, and secondly about the price of the game. So as far as features go, I'd like to see a couple of little changes, the first one being a small one, which is a crosshair option. While it's not a massive problem, I can't really stand looking at them for too long. They're a bit confusing to say the least. It doesn't really show recoil all the time, as half the time they appear static, and then mostly when you're aiming at aliens, they tend to go from white to red, even when aiming at dead ones. I think besides that, it's little features like an AI takeover for AFK players, a couple more weapons like I mentioned earlier, and then finally the big part I want, not anytime soon but down the line, would be official mapping tools for Earthfall. Earthfall has a chance to be a big game, and it can only go so far with the developer's support. Mapping tools however can change this. Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 have lasted for quite a few years, and I think while it's not as big as it used to be, it's definitely still going a fair bit today. They could easily implement a system like in Killing Floor 2 where developers can actually add and optimize mods to be part of the main game, giving console players a chance to see what the community has to offer as well. They've currently said there's no plans yet, but I do hope they change their minds in the future. Finally, the price. Earthfall is currently standing at around about £24 for the base edition and £32 for the deluxe edition. For £24 though, I can't recommend this game enough, as I personally think I've got my money's worth out of it, but I can understand that some people are put off by that price. Before I go, there's one other thing I'd like to mention, and it is basically just to thank HollowSpark for inviting me to their affiliate program. While it's an honour because I absolutely love this game, I don't feel okay with saying, oh, go click on the link in the description and give me some of their sale money. I honestly think they deserve 100% on it, as they made the game. So instead of me giving a link to get part of that money, I'd rather just leave you with this. Go to Steam, search for Earthfall if you want to buy it, and just go buy it. If you really want to support them even more, you can get the cosmetic pack like I have. I would personally like to see this game expand to be something much bigger than it is currently, so the more money HollowSpark can get, the better. As I hope they put the profits to good use, and hopefully don't get offended by me saying that. Now what's funny is, I mentioned that on their Discord the other day, and someone on there got really angry at me, saying I don't know how game sales work and I don't understand the game industry, and then they tried to belittle me. It's funny that, isn't it?